Everyone, it's shortly after 7:30 on Tuesday, January 16th. This is the meeting of Lakewood City Council. Thank you all for coming. As always, I appreciate your attendance, and I know that my council colleagues do as well. We certainly love to see community participation in all the issues and really appreciate you being here tonight. If you'll now rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please join me in a moment of silent reflection. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Anderson.
Present.
Bullock.
Here.
George.
Here.
Litton.
Here.
O'Leary.
Here.
O'Malley.
Here.
Rader.
Here.
Reading and disposal of the minutes of the regular meeting of council held January 2nd, 2018.
Move to dispose without the necessity of a reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to dispose of the minutes without a necessity of a reading? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 1, Ordinance 118, an ordinance amending various provisions within Chapter 505, Animals and Fowl, and Chapter 506, Dangerous and Vicious Animals of the Codified Ordinances of the City, in order to update the code with respect to the regulation of dogs in the city. Thank
you. Acknowledging, firstly, that most of you are probably here tonight to speak to this issue or follow this issue, I did want to address initially a procedural change. This was initially referred to Public Safety Committee on our meeting on January 2nd. I will move tonight that we refer this instead to Committee of the Whole. Do I have a second?
Second. A
motion's been made and seconded. Is there discussion? And I'll say that I'll jump in at this point just to provide some background rationale, at least as far as my thinking goes on this re-referral. And that is that given the high-profile nature of this issue, the high level of interest in this issue, I think it does make sense to address this in Committee of the Whole as opposed to Public Safety Committee. One of the features of that discussion being had in Committee of the Whole is not only the fact that every council member has a vote in Committee of the Whole, but also that we think that this kind of an approach can also expedite the process a little bit in terms of making sure that whatever ultimately is recommended out of Committee of the Whole is reflective of something that the council body at large would be inclined to pass. And that, I think, from a procedural standpoint, makes it a little bit smoother rather than having to work all those issues out, say, on the floor of council after a Public Safety Committee meeting. So on that basis, I would ask for the re-referral to Committee of the Whole. But is there any other discussion?
Thank you.
Councilwoman George.
Yes, thank you. I just want to echo your sentiments that I think this is better served in Committee of the Whole so all of us can work collaboratively and come up with the best resolution possible. So I'm glad we've moved it to the Committee of the Whole. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions from council? Councilman Bullock.
Mr. President, thank you. I don't know. I have a number of thoughts to share or think through with my colleagues here. I don't know if now is the best time. Tonight it is where it appears in the docket, so we're talking about a procedural motion on the ordinance, but anyway, I'd like to share a couple of thoughts. So firstly, I think that I would welcome an intensive negotiation to see if council can develop an ordinance that we could vote on as early as February. And that is a tall order, but if a number of the members I know have expressed strong interest in this, maybe we could do it. Even a dysfunctional Congress was able to pass tax reform in a matter of weeks. Maybe we could be up to this. The effort, if we work hard and diligently, we could find out whether we have the ability to come to some kind of a mutual agreement or not. What I ideally think would serve us well would be to see if we can create on this issue a successful model that's worked on other animal issues, namely cat humane adoption and essentially making sure that as many cats as possible find homes and don't get euthanized. And another one is the backyard hen pilot project, which is now an ordinance. And in those cases, what we had was a good faith partnership between the city and the animal community working pretty closely. And the reason that is important is the city has some resources, but some is the key word there. 3 animal control officers, one of whom is on duty at any given time and not 100% of the time on the weekend. And really, public education, as we've said a number of times in this discussion, is probably our main tool. And that is going to need to be something that not just the city works on, but the animal community. So if that logic that I'm putting out there applies, then ideally what we could do is develop a policy that the city and the animal community can work together on. And then that way, all of our energies are devoted to owner education. Now, it is important to design a law that doesn't just assume the best case owners. We do have not so good owners, and in fact, one was brought to my attention when I called a gentleman in Birdtown about something totally unrelated, and he talked about doing exactly the wrong things, where you had a bully breed chained to the fence and a cane corso dog chained to the fence in the front yard, unattended for hours, and that gentleman didn't report it to the city because he didn't want to get into a neighbor dispute. And I think he's going to successfully resolve it with his neighbor, but every day all over the city, things big and small go unreported or underreported from the residents to the city because people don't want to get the city engaged, or they're concerned, or any number of things. So it's not simple to do a good job with public education. It's an ongoing commitment over years, and that is something that would require teamwork. So successful laws, I think, have a little bit of both. You design an optimal policy, but you also have consequences for people who aren't doing a good job, just like traffic laws. Traffic laws work successfully because 90% of the time people are voluntarily complying because they make sense, but also because there are citations and tickets and consequences for 10% of the time when people aren't obeying the laws. So the city has to design a policy, I believe, that looks at both of those cases. Those I think probably everybody can agree upon. Final thing I'll say is the city's interest is in public safety and animal humaneness. The mechanisms by which we achieve public safety, we could make the argument, could be, we could find alternatives. It seems that it's a very contentious issue. It's not seems, it's what we're hearing, for breed specific to be in the ordinance. I'm willing to be open to a negotiation that puts all possibilities on the table. I'm not interested in voting for an ordinance that would be so objectionable to the administration that we'd be in a veto situation. I think that we are best served by a sincere and authentic negotiation. That usually means neither side gets 100% of what they want. And so then the people involved in that negotiation have to ask themselves seriously, is the only circumstances under which we'd support a compromise policy if we get 100% of what we want, or are there some key things that are must-haves and other things we can negotiate on? All pregnant questions. But anyway, I thought I'd more clearly state my own thoughts on this matter, since it's a big topic, and I do think it deserves our time. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's before council now. So thank you for the time to share my thoughts.
Thank you. And I would just note for audience members and media alike that tonight, I think that the only actions that we would anticipate are, again, the re-referral to Committee of the Whole, which was just mentioned and moved, and then a deferral of the ordinance being on second reading and council having not met on it prior to tonight. absent the meeting on the 2nd, but that wasn't a substantive working session on the actual legislation, obviously. So in addition to those things, we have significant public comment signed up on this issue, so we'll obviously hear the public comment. But I would first, since we do have a motion pending, like to have a vote on the motion to re-refer to Committee of the Whole. Is there any further discussion from council members on that motion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the re-referral say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. And that brings us to the public comment portion of this docket item. We've got, as I said, a number of people signed up to speak, and the first is, excusing my inevitable mispronunciation, Samantha Vidnovic.
Vidnovic, but you're close. My name is Samantha Vidnovic. I live in Olmsted Falls, 8545 Evergreen Trail. I grew up in a suburb of Western Pennsylvania, a state where it is actually illegal for local ordinances dealing with dogs to prohibit or otherwise limit a specific breed of dog. I recently graduated from Baldwin Wallace, and after moving off campus, I had my heart set on adopting a certain dog, but after trying to wrap my head around BSL, I shied away from adopting a dog that I may have had to part with due to breed restrictions in Lakewood. I watched over the years as my college friends moved out of Berea and into Lakewood, and I cringed when they said they moved here to live in an inclusive and progressive city, because from my research, it was anything but. If safety and education don't come first in the eyes of its lawmakers, Lakewood really isn't the inclusive, progressive city it claims to be, and I want to be a part of changing that. When I adopted my dog a year ago, I didn't think I had the courage to face the people who create and still continue to push for unfair, unjust laws. I thought city council members who have the power to overturn these laws would try to diminish us by merely labeling us as the dog community and only see us as another speed bump along their road to another elected office. Maybe I was right on some accounts, but I've been coming to meetings for a few months now, and I think we, as a community, are a lot stronger than a sad, failed law and those who desperately try to hold on to it. Listen to the residents and contributors in this city. Safety and education matter to us. In doing my own research, I found somewhere where I can learn hands-on. I am proud to say that for over 3 years, Lorain County's dog kennel has not euthanized any dog based on looks, overcapacity, or anything short of life-threatening injury, illness, or severe aggression, and we will continue that streak. I have interacted with hundreds of dogs of all shapes, sizes, and temperaments, and I have never once had a negative experience. While I genuinely empathize with victims of dog-related incidents, I attribute my individual safety to relying on strict, dangerous dog laws being enforced and personally being careful while listening to a dog's social cues and while being especially cautious around dogs I don't know. Our worries of BSL in Lorain County may have come and gone, and surely Lakewood's unique size and population makes it different than many of the cities in Lorain County, but the consequences of discriminatory laws affect responsible owners everywhere. You, as Lakewood's leaders, are quickly losing all remaining credibility as you continue to take advice from unethical and controversial organizations like PETA. The people who refuse to listen and actually research the importance of safety and education are not only hurting responsible families within this community, but are also making current and future residents question whether they should live here or not. That doesn't feel inclusive to me. It is crucial for families to have access to breed-neutral, unbiased safety information, but right now you are doing nothing but adding a more restrictive, more difficult to enforce, false sense of security. Giving your constituents materials to educate themselves and to be proactive is one of the greatest things you can do as a leader. I urge you all to become more invested in the city by helping to educate Lakewood residents in responsible dog ownership. Have you walked down the halls of a Lakewood school lately? Have you met any of the therapy dogs in those schools? The way these dogs are helping students and teachers get through the day is indescribable. Let's focus on the positivity that all well-behaved dogs and their responsible owners bring to Lakewood. We know that breed-specific laws are unfair and difficult to enforce. My own dog, whose breed is not on your radar yet, played with a few of those banned dogs last summer in Lakewood Dog Park. Nothing happened. That simple, generalized ban didn't even work, and a lot of money was wasted. Think about all that money going towards education and enforcing realistic and fair laws. A lot of us would feel safer. The city's expenditure backing a subjective law is absolutely outrageous and irresponsible. To us, this conversation matters because it's not just about dogs. I'm tired of sitting here and watching some of you talk down to my friends and trying to minimize our views and silence our voices. Look in the mirror and see who is really being the bully here. I guarantee you it's not Charlie. No one who stands for discrimination in any capacity should have the privilege to lead this community. Seriously, listen to us. Safety and education matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker signed up is Greg Murray.
Greg Murray, 1585 Westwood Avenue. First off, any form of discrimination based on looks is not sound public policy, and that's a fact. I'd like to start off by telling some of you, not all of you, that we're not the dog and animal community. I'm a resident of Lakewood, born, raised, educated. I'm a homeowner, and I'm a Lakewood business owner. I'm an investor in Lakewood. I love this city so much, and that's why you see me here all the time. We are part of the We Care About Our Neighbors community, the We Don't Agree with Discrimination community, the Getting Rid of Failed Laws and Enacting Better Laws at Work community, the We Care About Safety community. And we happen to love animals, especially dogs, so please stop minimizing us by calling us the dog or animal community. In a recent study, over 2,000 dog owners, 82% of the people noticed an improvement in their mental and emotional health because of their four-legged friend. 88% said that their dog makes them a better person. Dogs reduce stress, provide companionship, make us happy, make us smile, help us stay emotionally and physically healthy and happy. Best of all, they don't judge like humans do. Dogs are far from being property, they're family. You may not all be dog people, and you don't have to be, but over 55% of Lakewood homes have dogs, so Lakewood is a dog community. And a number of those dogs are pit mixes, because remember, they're already here, and the ban hasn't worked. It is wrong to not accept family into Lakewood or try to kick them out based solely on one thing, looks. Stereotypes should not dictate public policy. Common sense should. Any form of BSL is the opposite of compassion, common sense, education, safety, inclusivity, and the progressive city we like to call ourselves. Discrimination is not a Lakewood value. BSL is not aligned with safety. It is, however, aligned with intolerance. The city has failed to show that discrimination is easily enforceable, that it doesn't waste time and resources, and that it gets to the root of the problem. The city is grasping for experts and studies, and that was made very clear last week. It concerns me that some people in our city want to use a flawed study to not only create laws, but laws that don't even impact safety and that can barely be enforced. It was put on the website with the response and peer review of it being blatantly ignored. On January 10th, our city government gave a platform to multiple hate-filled fringe and radical organizations. I decided to cross off the list of horrible things this one organization does because I'm just sick of the negativity. So I'll pass those up, but we might want to do research before we reference some of these organizations. Putting their information online was purely negligent and nothing less. Providing a platform for those organizations on our website sets a terrible precedence and preys on residents who get their info from their first website that comes up on Google when they search this stuff, from the local news, or that assume the city knows what info they're putting on their website. I'm concerned that even for experts, identifying a mutt is difficult, yet we are possibly proposing even other laws that rely on identification of dogs. These dogs, pits, they come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors, because they're mutts. It's time to stop the identification game. It can't be won. I'm concerned that laws like this tell people, especially children, that dangerous is the way something looks, when they need to be aware of everything and everyone around them. I assure you that when we have children, and they're old enough to understand, they will be taught everything that is wrong with that ideology. Dog discrimination doesn't work. It's been proven time and time again. It's been proven over the past 10 years in Lakewood not to work. It fails to address the problem. It takes time, money, energy, and resources away from the real problem. When you teach discrimination and intolerance, it spreads to other forms of intolerance. Given how it's been going at the highest levels of our government in the past year, I think we're all sick of intolerance. And that's simply what BSL is, any form of it. It's intolerance. If anyone in this room, if anyone has a stereotype of pits being these huge muscular beasts or a stereotype of their owners being bad people, throw it in the trash. These stereotypes are false. The dogs and their humans come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and socioeconomic backgrounds. It's time to remove all discrimination from Lakewood's law books and move on. Let's show everyone that Lakewood means business when it comes to safety. We deserve comprehensive, breed-neutral laws that demand responsible ownership and that hold all owners accountable regardless of the way their family looks. Please stop wasting time, money, and resources, and let's make an impact together. That's the key word. Let's make Lakewood safe together with real laws, not discrimination, and no forms of BSL. It is a failed policy judging based on looks and never has been successful public policy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker signed up is Kara Blacklasher.
Good evening. My name is Kara Blacklasher. I'll be reappointed to the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board this evening. I have 3 points of discussion tonight: board appointments, proposed dog legislation, and offering some reliable resources. First of all, as you know, we are an 11-member board, 9 of whom are voting members, and 5 of those voting members' terms have expired as of December 31st. I'd like to thank Mr. Rader for making my appointment tonight. I appreciate his kind words and confidence in me, and I intend to continue our work to the best of our abilities. I'd also like to thank the members of council who are making their open appointments to our board this evening. With these 3 appointments, we now have only 2 remaining appointments. With the recent proposed dog ordinances introduced on the January 2nd docket, our board will play a role in the upcoming months as these proposed ordinances work their way through the legislative process. A full board would best serve the public interest, as we would better be able to fulfill our role as advisors, and I'd like to urge those with open appointments to consider making those as quickly as possible. Thank you for your consideration on this. Secondly, I would like to address the proposed dog ordinances that were introduced. There are 2 sections to this legislation, Section 505 and 506. In the proposed changes to 506, there are many notable changes to our nuisance, dangerous, and vicious dog ordinances that are based on the behavior of the dog. Many of these proposed changes do parallel state law and the Avon Lake ordinances that we recommended to the mayor as a model ordinance. In Section 505, however, the proposed ordinances still place significant restrictions on specific breeds based solely on their appearance. For years, members of our board have been unwavering in our belief that breed-specific legislation is not an effective way to protect public safety. This is in alignment with plenty of respected, reputable organizations who have all issued formal position statements against breed-specific legislation. I'm sure you're familiar with this list: the American Bar Association, the American Society of Prevention for Cruelty to Animals, the American Veterinarian Medical Association, the American Veterinarian Society of Animal Behavior, American Kennel Club, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Humane Society of the United States, the National Animal Care and Control Association, the Association of Professional Dog Trainers, to name a few. This is a list of esteemed, trustworthy experts in this field. Our board also believes that public education must be a primary force of any dog bite prevention policy. This is one of our primary initiatives for 2018. Another 2018 initiative is our continued support of spay and neuter education and outreach. We have promoted this over the years and will continue to encourage education of spay and neuter for all companion animals, but as a best practice. We do not support a mandate, and I believe our position may have been miscommunicated or misunderstood in our meetings with the mayor. In the upcoming weeks, you can count on us to provide you with written recommendations, including well-researched facts and peer-reviewed studies on these issues at hand. In my last point, we'd like to offer some reliable resources for you for your consideration as you walk through shaping this new legislation. As in any matter of public policy, I'm confident that not only would each of you do your own research, but would also seek out the advice of counsel of experts in a field where you may not be fully proficient. To support you in these efforts, our board members have reached out to leading, respected, and reliable experts throughout our area and across the country. These local experts have generously offered their knowledge and experience to assist in this legislative process through appearances at the upcoming Public Safety Committee meetings. Sharon Harvey, President and CEO of the Cleveland Animal Protective League, which is a respected innovator and national leader in animal welfare. The APL Human Investigations Team is empowered to enforce Ohio's animal protection laws throughout Cuyahoga County under Ohio Revised Code Section 1717. Mindy Naccioni, Animal Shelter Administrator, and Debbie Conway, Chief Dog Warden, both from Cuyahoga County Animal Shelter. These professionals are tasked with administering the dangerous dog compliance requirements of Cuyahoga County pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 955. They have assisted other communities within our county and are experienced at wading through the complex issues involved in crafting animal control and dangerous dog legislation. And Dr. Lorna Johnston, Medical Director of PetFix Northeast Ohio, which is a nonprofit organization in Euclid that offers affordable spay and neuter surgeries. In addition, these leaders with highly regarded national organizations have offered their wealth of knowledge, service, and resources of their organization to our city at no cost to our taxpayers. Corey Roscoe with the Humane Society of the United States, and A.J. Albrecht with Best Friends Animal Society. In closing, we look forward to you relying on the Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board as a valued resource to you on the myriad of issues relating to crafting any new animal-related legislation and its impact on the safety and welfare of the citizens and their animals in our community. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next speaker signed up is Bradley Pursuto.
I'm loud, so I'm trying to get it as far away as possible.
Oh, and while I can interject here, just as a general reminder to everyone, I know you were kind enough to write down your addresses on the sign-in sheet, but if you could, at the top of your remarks, state your name and address for the record, that would be appreciated.
All right, great. Good evening. I'm Bradley A. Pursuto from 2178 Carabel, Precinct 2H. I don't own a pit bull. I never have. I don't have any immediate plans to. But I do have 5 young children at my house, ranging from my set of twins are age 4 and my oldest is age 10. So as you can imagine, public safety and dog safety is very important to me. So tonight, I really want to appreciate everyone on City Council that is listening tonight and taking notes. And those of you that aren't paying attention and are, generally disinterested in this conversation, it's very hard to take you on a good faith effort when it appears that you're not interested in this conversation. So I just kind of want to reflect on how this all started back in 2008. And when the council and City Hall has told us that this was for our best protection, it was for public safety, and the state of Ohio agreed with them. Well, now if we look, the state of Ohio doesn't agree with breed exclusionary policies. So the new response from City Hall is, hey, let the voters decide, let the community decide. And I think if we look at the 2017 election, there was a clear mandate to the top 2 winners of that election that came out in staunch opposing to breed-specific legislation. And the third place finish had to have a runoff, and those 2 were those that were supportive of the breed-specific legislation. So I think it's very clear that the public has now said, whether it's just being dismissed as the dog community or Lakewood voters in general, I think the city has spoken on how we feel about the issue. But now it's, again, just being thrown back by just giving us a piecemeal solution. While we do agree that parts of Section 506 are very important, and we strongly encourage the public education, more strict fines on any kind of vicious dog, we still oppose the breed-specific legislation portion of it. Now, while I know that these statements in the past have just been dismissed as just by the dog community, they're coming back over and over again because we have support not just from fellow voters, our family members, our neighbors, but we're getting full support from legit legislation, legit groups throughout the country, and our fellow neighboring cities. And what City Hall has presented us is a study that has been essentially defunct. The main author won't respond to any peer review questions, which it's not like a letter to editor where the author can just not respond. This actually gives validity to their study, and to date, they have still not answered those queries. Additionally, they jotted out the PETA organization as a reason why we should have breed-specific legislation. I don't care whether you agree with BSL or don't agree with BSL. I don't think the city of Lakewood or the voters would like to align themselves with PETA as an organization. So instead, what I would urge everyone to do tonight is to listen to the experts in the field. I would like them to look at what the state of Ohio has come now and done, even though we said that we would listen to them when they have, and we haven't. I would like them to look at our sister city, Avon Lake, who has come out and said, look, we can do this and keep public safety without excluding breeds. I think they have 13 dogs listed on their vicious dog list, and I don't believe any of them are pit bulls. So having an exclusionary pit bull ban would not have solved any of those vicious dog situations. I'd like to point out that the Humane Society, the CDC, a lot of other national organizations that my colleagues have and fellow voters have come up and said that support ending breed-specific legislation. So again, I would like to reiterate that no one is here asking for the Wild West in regards to dog ordinances. No one is saying that we shouldn't have strict policies in regards to public safety, but I think everyone here will agree that any kind of breed exclusionary verbiage will not be accepted. I know for one as a voter that I will not accept any breeds being excluded, whether it's Dobermans, German Shepherds, Pit Bulls, Chihuahuas, Poodles, I don't care. It's not the right way to maintain public safety, and it's not the way that it should be done for an open and diverse community like Lakewood. So again, I would urge everyone on City Council, those of you that are listening and those of you that may just now starting to listen because of the overwhelming support that the anti-BSL group has, that we please urge you to make a legit and sound decision based on experts in the field and not by emotional responses and groups like PETA. Thank you.
Thanks. Our next speaker signed up is Jessica England.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to speak again. For those of you who were at the prior council meeting, my name is Jessica England. I would prefer not to disclose my home address at this time, but I am a Lakewood resident because I know this is going live out on Facebook and safety. But I wanted to talk both as a boxer, trainer, breeder, and exhibitor of close to 18 years now to represent the American Kennel Club. I'm holding in my hand a letter from them. The letter is addressed to Mayor Summers and the Lakewood City Council. For those not familiar, the American Kennel Club was established in 1884 to promote the study, breeding, exhibiting, and advancement of purebred dogs. That's a long time. I was a little bit disheartened to see PETA propped up on our city website as an expert. Along with it, the insinuation that experts haven't been heard from, because I think to discount the American Kennel Club and some of the other organizations that are well respected as non-experts seems extremely odd to me. This is going to sound extreme, but these are facts. PETA is actually on the FBI's list of domestic terrorists, and they kill 90% of the adoptable animals that they take in every year. I am not okay with those statistics, and those are real stats that can be researched and backed and proven. Back to the American Kennel Club. It is their position that mandatory sterilization can harm dogs and have a negative impact on public health. We heard quite a bit about that last time with regards to it can lead to serious health issues, including cancer, hip dysplasia, ligament damage, incontinence, and especially in consideration that house training issues are a leading cause of relinquishment. Compounding that issue would only serve to fill shelters even faster. This is especially true of pediatric spay and neuter. So I think that portion of the legislation needs to be reconsidered significantly. Furthermore, as Councilman Bullock rightly demonstrated at the beginning of this conversation, people who are not interested in following the law and doing things in a responsible manner are not going to follow the law. They're going to fly under the radar. They're not going to respect the ordinances as put out, and they're not going to self-report. That's just basic nature. So what we're doing in effect is punishing the responsible people, which I believe to be in the majority within our community. That's not okay. You don't punish the majority of the responsible community members for the fault of the irresponsible. And in kind, the American Kennel Club also believes that this proposal will punish the responsible dog owners. Breed-specific laws place the emphasis on the dog's appearance, as has been rightly stated. There's no evidence at all to support the idea that some breeds of dogs are more inherently dangerous than others, or that banning ownership of certain breeds will lower bite rates. I think the dogbites.org statistic and study is the go-to study for the pro-BSL crowd. I can tell you right now it's a flawed study. The statistics are absolutely misleading. You cannot take a bunch of breeds and lump them into a category of pit bull and then combine it and compare it against golden retriever, Labrador retriever, poodle, chihuahua, boxer. Of course the numbers are going to be higher. It's a group of breeds versus a singular breed. Likewise, these ordinances are arbitrary. There's no scientific basis or way of actually screening these dogs, nor is there any way to enforce mandatory spay-neuter. I mean, there's no way that you're going to go into someone's house and check and see if their dogs are neutered. And therefore, the proposal will be difficult and inexpensive to enforce. We've already seen it. Legislation pops up. It's expensive for the city. And likewise, other communities have seen cost increases. Dallas, Texas, for example, saw a 22% increase in animal control costs and an overall decrease in basic licensing.
I appreciate the
thank
comments
you for
tonight.
your time.
Thank you.
I have copies of this. If you don't mind, I'll leave it on the table.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Our next speaker signed up, and you'll have to excuse my deficiency here. I'm having a great deal of trouble reading this name, but I believe it's Mr. or Ms. Hevschner? Kushner? Kirschner. Thank you. I'm sorry, the first name is?
Lori.
Thank you.
I don't have the best handwriting, I apologize. Good evening. My name is Lori Kirschner, and I am the lobbyist for Best Friends Animal Society here in Ohio. And I worked on the changes to Ohio Revised Code to remove breed discriminatory language in Ohio law. I'm here to testify on behalf of Best Friends, a national animal welfare organization that is committed to creating safe and humane communities throughout the country. Best Friends' goal is safety first and foremost in the most effective and most comprehensive way possible, because everyone benefits from a safe society, both people and pets. Lakewood's breed-specific and discriminatory dangerous dog policy and the mayor's draft proposed ordinance fail to promote public safety. Instead, these discriminatory policies seek to punish innocent dogs based on their purported inherently dangerous breed, when the focus should be on holding owners accountable and responsible for animals that are actually dangerous. Lakewood residents deserve a comprehensive dog law that demands responsible dog ownership and that holds irresponsible owners accountable when their poor decisions wind up getting other dogs or other people hurt. This is what will create a safe and humane Lakewood. Lakewood's discriminatory dangerous dog law is also costing taxpayer money. The city is currently in litigation over the Charlie case in both Court of Common Pleas for Cuyahoga County as well as the Lakewood Municipal Court. Charlie's case and Lakewood's discriminatory dog law is extremely similar to cases recently heard in the 5th and 3rd District Court of Appeals in Ohio. In both of those cases, the city of Reynoldsburg and Lima lost. They were found to have dangerous dog laws that conflicted with Ohio state law and are therefore unenforceable. The Ohio courts continue to make clear that breed discriminatory laws have no place in this state, and the clear trend is breed-neutral laws that focus on the behavior of the individual dog and the individual owner. Yet still, Lakewood continues to litigate Charlie's case in court at the expense of the taxpayers. The radical study that the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals promotes, a group that advocates for the abolishment of pet ownership entirely, has been debunked. Peer-reviewed, science-based experts who have looked at this issue agree that breed-neutral laws focusing on behavior are the most effective way to promote public safety and protect the legal rights of law-abiding, responsible dog owners. Those in favor of breed-neutral laws include, and you've heard these, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the American Veterinary Medical Association, the American Bar Association, the National Animal Care and Control Association, the American Kennel Club, the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, the Pet Professional Guild, and many others. Put simply, breed discriminatory laws have been scientifically proven to be ineffective at promoting public safety. I have and will continue to advocate on behalf of Best Friends Animal Society to the Ohio legislature, and we've worked to ensure that dogs were judged based on behavior and not breed. I worked hand in hand with the County Commissioners Association of Ohio, the Dog Wardens Association, and the American Veterinary Association of Ohio, among others. Together, we crafted the breed-neutral language that is currently in Ohio Revised Code. The language looks at all dogs based on behavior and behavior alone. We used evidence-based data on dog behavior when debating and ultimately crafting this section of code. It passed with bipartisan support and became law just a few years ago. Once this became law, countless municipalities almost immediately changed their local ordinances to match state code. Unfortunately, not all made that choice and continue to unfairly punish their taxpaying residents simply because of their preferred dog breed, regardless of the behavior of the dogs or their owners. Best Friends wrote to the mayor and city council back in June of 2017, urging breed-neutral policy and offering their free services to help with drafting such legislation. Best Friend has experts with decades of combined experience available to your leadership at no cost to the taxpayers. The city should follow the advice of its own Animal Safety and Welfare Board in enacting a breed-neutral ordinance that achieves safety and humane community by protecting against dangerous dogs. Finally, I applaud your desire to work collaboratively with all interested parties, which is exactly what we did at the state level. We removed breed discriminatory language together, and we put in policies and tools to help dog wardens appropriately deal with bad dog owners who were neglectful in protecting public safety. And I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Venchise Glenn.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Venchise Glenn, and I'm a resident of Ohio City, residing at 4424 Franklin Boulevard in Cleveland. As I stated before, and what's made obvious by my address, I am not a resident of Lakewood, but I am here today because Lakewood is still the place I want to call my home one day, and I plan on working tirelessly to make this city a place where my fiance and I can feel welcome. 2 weeks ago, I offered my praise both at the council meeting and in my follow-up email to each of you for many of the changes that had been proposed to Lakewood's dog ordinances, and I still offer that praise. I believe that most of those changes are a strong step in the right direction, and I also believe that some of them fall short. But that isn't why I'm standing up in front of you here tonight. When it comes to targeted breeds, there is an attitude on all sides of us versus them, and if there is anything that we, as citizens of this country, should have learned over the past year, is that kind of mindset causes progress to come to a screeching halt. Progress comes from the humility to put aside one's convictions and listen to the voices that oppose you, and that applies to everyone, including myself. It may be surprising to hear this coming from someone who is very strongly pro-pit and a pit bull owner, but the fact is, until a few years ago, I held beliefs similar to some of you when it comes to certain dog breeds. Growing up, the words pit bull brought to mind this infamous image from the cover of Sports Illustrated. A dog viciously bearing its canines with its brindled fur pattern, making it look more like a wild animal than a family pet. I heard the news stories of attacks, and I would sit and wonder what kind of fool would bring a pit bull into their home. I said that people who owned these dogs were misguided and had a death wish, and I ignored their arguments that supported that breed. I applauded the cities that banned the dogs, and I felt safe when I found out certain shelters would euthanize these dogs immediately. I rattled off the facts of locking jaws and blood loss, repeating exactly what I was hearing on the news. But despite all that I thought I knew about those dogs, the first time I actually remember interacting with a pit bull, I had no idea what it was. At the time, my fiance was working at a church mission, and for weeks he would not stop talking about a woman they were helping and one of the dogs that she owned that he wanted to adopt. Knowing how much I loved animals, he took me to this woman's home, and I was greeted by 3 of the friendliest dogs I had ever met. These square-headed dogs followed me around and smothered me with affection, and throughout the evening, I watched these dogs play gently with an entire litter of kittens and with the woman's young autistic son. All evening, I couldn't figure out what type of dogs they were, and when I asked the woman what their breed was, she told me they were pit bulls. To say that I was surprised would be putting it mildly. How could the same dogs that I had spent 2 decades fearing and hating be the dogs that were in front of me now? So I went home, and with an open mind, I did my research. I learned about the history of the breed and how the reputation came not from genetics, but from human abuses. I learned about their temperament, their intelligence, their loyalty, their eagerness to please, their agility, and their patience. I read stories of pit bulls taking bullets for their owners and saving families from burning buildings. And after it was all said and done, my opinions on this breed had been changed for good. And a few years later, I adopted my first dog, a pit bull named Pippin. My opinions weren't changed by having people tell me that I was wrong. So for me to expect that it would work on those of you who support BSL would be foolish. No one in this room can change your minds. That has to come from you. And it can only happen if there is a humility on each side to listen and admit that maybe there is credit and value in an opinion that differs from yours. Positive and progressive change can only happen when there is mutual respect on each side of the table. I can't change any of your minds when it comes to breed-specific legislation. All that I can do is put in front of you the same information that changed my stance and ask that you read it with an open mind, which is exactly what I'm doing tonight. In each of these folders are the types of articles that I read that gave me a new perspective on these breeds, as well as some information relating directly to certain aspects of the newly proposed dog ordinances. And I can't force you to read what's in these folders, but I do humbly ask each of you to take a copy and see why it is that we are all fighting so passionately for this cause. We all have the same end goals. We want the city of Lakewood, Ohio to be a welcoming community where its residents, both human and canine, can feel safe and secure due to the breed-neutral laws and education provided by this government. We want to see legislation in place that demands that all citizens provide a secure home for their pets while instilling the importance of adequate dog training and responsible handling. We all want to see a better Lakewood. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn, I do want to apologize for mispronouncing your first name for probably the 3rd or 4th consecutive time, and I really will learn it one of these days. Our next speaker signed in is Nancy McDonald.
Hi. I'm a little nervous. I've never spoken in front of council before, but I'm coming to you today as a victim of a pit bull attack to share with you my experience. And I have always loved dogs. I own 2 dogs, never had any fear of dogs. But in September, there were 2 sets of 5 words that changed my life. The first set is, "He's never done that before," which was the first thing I heard from the owner of the pit bull that had just attacked me, which was an unprovoked, no warning whatsoever. The second set was, "Did you bring the skin?" which is from the emergency room doctor who attempted to assess the damage and stop the bleeding from the severed artery in the remaining, what was left of my upper lip. I've always been conscious of dogs. I know their signals. I was never given any warning that this dog was going to attack me. At one moment, he was just there. He never growled. He never showed any signs of anxiety, aggression, anything. And then the next thing I know, he was latched onto my face, and that was that. The wounds that I received don't look that bad now, but the wonderful people at the MAC Cosmetic counter have taught me how to cover up and paint on a lip where there really is just skin. In March, I will have another consultation with my plastic surgeon, and he will let me know where we go from there. Those are just the external wounds. I find myself crossing the road when I'm out walking my dogs because I'm not sure what's coming towards me, what they're gonna do. And that's just common sense. Never approach a dog that you don't know. you know, people will insist that their dogs are gentle and loving and they wouldn't hurt anyone, which is exactly what this owner had told me, and I live with this now. When I spoke with the warden, it was not an isolated case. They see dozens of them. And this particular dog, as we learned in the aftermath, had been caged in extensive periods, was never neutered, had never been trained on a leash, was not wearing a collar, all kinds of poor ownership more than anything else. But that's after the fact. My personal belief is she didn't have any insurance, so all of the financial responsibility for my injuries are my own. With any laws for any dogs, I think insurance is a #1 priority. There should be legislature put into place that anyone that owns any animal should have liability insurance to cover in case it attacks another dog or a human. Veterinary care, she never was able to produce any veterinary care. Anyway, spay and neutering I think is a responsible thing, that's just myself. Training, general responsibility, these are all very important things for owners. But my plastic surgeon had a great sense of humor. He was saying, it's a good thing I know how to do puzzles. 32 stitches, 2 hours later, I walked away, and I'm extremely grateful for being in close proximity to the hospital and having a plastic surgeon that was on staff to able to put me back together. But I didn't provoke the dog that attacked me. I was not interacting with the dog, and yet the dog, for whatever reason, which we will never know because it has since been euthanized, no growls, no warning, no outward sign, nothing. And he didn't bite my hand, he didn't bite my leg, he went straight for, my face. And he latched on to a portion of my face, which happens to be delicate tissue, so it ripped away. Had it been 5 inches higher, I could be blind. Had I fallen with the fall, had he gotten more purchase, I might not be here. There's a lot of people, I consider myself very, very, very lucky in a survivor of that dog attack. There are a lot of people that are not as lucky as I am. And I would caution anyone, and sorry, it was really traumatic. And I read about a little girl this morning in Oklahoma, I believe, that was killed by a dog that they'd had for 5 days. It's ongoing, so I do believe that a little bit of it is dog-specific, but it also is owners. I do have photos if anybody wants me to give you what it looks like.
If you'd like, you can drop them off with Maureen back. Maureen, could you, and then
But thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate your attendance tonight, and I appreciate you sharing your story. Our next speaker is Janine Zabriskie.
First of all, I want to say I'm very sorry for what happened to you. I'm also a dog bite victim in the city of Lakewood. I was mauled by a Dalmatian when I was 12. I actually lost part of my ear as a result of that attack. My name is Janine Zabriskie. I live at 1516 Mars. Good evening, City Council and Mayor Summers. I'm here tonight to read a letter to you from my 17-year-old son, Tyler Zabriskie. He did not wish to address council on his own, so I will read it for him. Dear City Council, my name is Tyler Zabriskie. I'm a 17-year-old Lakewood High School senior. In 2008, the City of Lakewood passed an ordinance banning certain types of dogs. My dog Macy was one of the original dogs to be grandfathered into the city. My parents fought that decision that our dog was a pit bull and took that decision to an administrative hearing where she was ultimately determined not to be a pit bull and was taken off of the dangerous dog list. We did a DNA test on Macy, and we found out that she was 51% Labrador Retriever and 49% English Bulldog. She wasn't even a pit bull. I remember back in 2008 the feeling of fear. I feared that the Lakewood animal warden would come and take my dog away while I was at school. I remember telling my mom not to let the animal warden come take her away until I got to say goodbye. As a kid, that was an awful feeling, not knowing if they were going to come and take away my best friend. I remember thinking about it all day at school, and I was scared and sick to my stomach that I would get home and she would be gone. I would run home from Roosevelt to make sure that she was still there. It affected my schoolwork really badly. I remember crying myself to sleep, wondering if that night was the last night that I would get to spend with her. That fear and sadness was not okay to put my family through. We did not deserve the harassment and the torment that we went through. As a kid, I didn't deserve to live in that fear. This ordinance negatively affected my family. By targeting pit bulls, you are missing the real issue here. The real issue is dangerous dogs of any breed. Any breed can bite, and the owners of those dogs should be held accountable for their actions. Make people pay hefty fines if they don't follow the law. Teach people to properly care for their animals. The city of Cleveland passed an awesome dangerous dog ordinance, and it's working great for them. Why can't Lakewood have an ordinance that's like Cleveland's? We need to change the Lakewood ordinance to not just say pit bulls, but all dogs. My dog Macy passed away on April 22nd, 2016 from lymphoma and mast cell cancer. She fought her entire life. She had mange when she was young, then she fought Lakewood's pit bull ban, then she fought cancer. This ordinance punished a good, hardworking family that didn't deserve it. I hope that you know that when you put that pit bull ordinance into effect back in 2008, you didn't just affect the adults who spoke out against it. You hurt kids like me. Please change your ordinance to be like the city of Cleveland's. Do not punish responsible owners. Further, I'd like to say, banning a breed or declaring it inherently vicious punishes those responsible dog owners who are the type of citizens that we need to keep. It punishes the types of citizens that this city needs to keep, not drive away. Banning a breed or particular mix of breeds punishes those dogs that are reliable community citizens, like therapy dogs, assistance dogs for handicapped owners, search and rescue dogs, drug sniffing dogs, police dogs, and it drives them out of our community. In April of 2017, the United States Postal Service promoted National Dog Bite Prevention Week. In a publication that was sent out to postal workers, they remind their employees that a common misunderstanding letter carriers hear is, "My dog doesn't bite." But even good dogs have bad days, and certain circumstances may trigger a dog's basic instincts. Lack of socialization, improper training, excitement, unfamiliar surroundings, and fear can often produce a scenario where a normally calm and friendly dog can respond with a nip, a bite, or an attack. A dog's breed is not necessarily an indicator of aggressiveness. Teeth hurt no matter if they're big or small. We all want the same thing here. We all want a safe community to live in. Every night I check my car alarm several times because I drive a Honda, and there have been a plethora of Honda tire thefts. I fear every night that I'll wake up in the morning and my car will be on cinder blocks. Something that I have never worried about in this city is whether or not a pit bull will seriously harm me. Yesterday, we observed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and just like Dr. King, I have a dream. I have a dream that one day all dogs will be treated equally, that they will not be judged by their appearance, but instead by their actions and their owners' actions in the city of Lakewood. You have each been provided with a copy of the City of Cleveland's Dangerous Dog Ordinance, along with a lot of other information. Please read that information and revise your proposed ordinance.
Thank you. Mayor, am I reading this correctly, that you're signed in to speak? Yeah. Great. Let's have at it.
Council President O'Leary, members of council, members of the audience, I continue to admire and appreciate the passion that you bring to this subject. And I have thought a great deal about this subject over many months recently and years prior. And while I remain convinced that certain dogs and certain breeds pose a greater safety risk to our citizens, I have listened and learned a great deal about dog safety. I acknowledge that strong and effective ownership of dogs reduces this risk. I have spoken with people on both sides of this issue, including victims of local pit bull attacks, one of which we heard from tonight. My experience, knowledge, and understanding of Lakewood at 18 years as an elected official lead me to believe that it's the city's best interest to maintain a few specific regulations regarding pit bulls. So I ask you to hear me out. This includes mandatory spay or neuter for pit bulls and pit bull mixes, a mandatory $100,000 liability insurance covering dog attacks, mandatory control of the dog in public as evidenced by a harness, and required training of both basic dog ownership and handling as well of practical education of pit bull breeds. I'm willing to concede significant regulations, including the elimination of the 2008 pit bull ban, as well as several of the components of revisions introduced on January 2nd, including the muzzle requirement. The breed-specific legislation aimed at other breeds beyond pit bulls and all requirements detailing how pit bull and pit bull mixes are kept on private residence. Chapter 506, which has been referred to occasionally tonight, which details the determination of nuisance, dangerous, and vicious dogs, is based primarily on state law. The key requirement to the effectiveness of the improved legislation is that our citizens notify us when they experience threatening behavior from any dog in Lakewood. This will require support and education from responsible dog owners as well as members in the community. While I have proposed this legislation, these changes, its fate ultimately lies in the hands of City Council. I hope to continue this discussion in a thoughtful manner, keeping public safety in mind as the heart and soul of what's important from my responsibilities as Director of Public Safety.
Thank you very much. We now have, that concludes public comment, I should say, first of all. So thank you all for speaking tonight. We would now move on to a motion to defer, although I think there may be council members who would like to speak at this time. Are there any such council members? I guess not. I would move to defer ordinance 1-18.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 2, ordinance 218, an ordinance amending various parts of Chapter 1306, Property Maintenance and Safety Code.
Move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 3, ordinance 318, an ordinance authorizing an agreement with Payne and Payne Custom Builders for the sale of 2107 Robin Street and 2111 Robin Street pursuant to Section 15507.
I would also move to defer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Just want to remind the audience that these last two pieces of legislation were received and filed and referred to the Housing Committee, and the Housing Committee is busy with respect to all the other committees to go ahead and schedule hearings on those two items. So we're deferring until we hear back from the Housing Committee.
Thanks. And I'd also note that in Lakewood, we do observe the state law, although there's a way to suspend the rules and pass things on first reading. In Lakewood, we have a proud tradition of not doing that. We actually have a full 3 readings typically for all of our ordinances unless there's a really truly pressing reason to get them passed on a first or second reading. So that brings us to our 4th item on the docket.
Item 4, liquor permit notice for D1, D2, D3, D3A, and D6 transfers to Woodford Cabernet 15607 Madison Avenue from Roxo.
I'm sorry, I'm out of order. I realized I don't think we took a vote on the motion to defer ordinance 3-18. Any additional discussion on the motion to defer ordinance 3-18? Hearing none. All those in favor of deferral say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. And thank you. Now please, number 4.
Liquor permit application for Woodford Cabernet 15607 Madison Avenue.
Thank you. As is council's custom, we typically defer to the council person in whose ward the establishment lies. In this particular case, that would be yours truly. And we are in a receipt of a report which indicates no statutory reason for objection. Therefore, I would move to file without objection.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to file without objection? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 5, communication from Council President O'Leary regarding council committee assignments.
Thank you. I'll direct your attention to the communication that I've attached. I won't read it word for word, but I'll summarize by saying the committee assignments that you're seeing on the screen are those committee assignments for our new term, and I'm personally very much looking forward to working with each and all council members collectively on the various issues that are going to face Lakewood in the new term. Ask that this communication be received and filed.
Second.
A motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that communication? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 6, communication from Council President O'Leary regarding appointment resolutions.
Thank you. Here again, we have a very brief communication, simply indicating that there are a number of appointments that council needs to make in the new term. Those are attached in kind of a serial nature. A number of these particular appointments are all of a collective nature. Some of them are council's ex officio representatives on different boards and commissions of the city, while others are for citizen appointments to those boards and commissions. I'd ask that this communication be received and filed.
Second that motion.
Thank you. Any discussion of the motion to receive and file the communication? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 7, Resolution 897618, a resolution appointing blank to the Audit Committee for a 2-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2019.
Move to refer to committee of the whole. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the referral to committee of the whole? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes. And Law Director Butler, if I could for clarification, is it possible to suspend the rules and read items 8 through 14 collectively?
Most certainly with a roll call vote.
Thank you. Then I would so move to suspend the rules for the purpose of reading items 8 through 14, which are all these resolutions making appointments collectively. Do I have a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to read them collectively? Hearing none. All those, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, roll call.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock? George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes,
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yes.
and that motion passes.
Item 8, Resolution 897718, a resolution appointing blank to the Audit Committee for a 2-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2019. Item 19, Resolution 897818, a resolution appointing blank to the Board of Nuisance Abatement Appeals for the 3-year term beginning January 1, 18 and ending December 31st, 2020. Item 10, Resolution 897918, a resolution appointing blank to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the 5-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2022. Item 11, Resolution 898018, a resolution appointing blank to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council for the 3-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2020. Item 12, Resolution 898118, a resolution appointing blank to the Community Reinvestment Area Housing Council for the 3-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2020. Item 13, Resolution 898218, a resolution appointing council member blank to serve as ex officio member of the Foundation Planning Task Force. Item 14, Resolution 898318, a resolution appointing blank as the ex officio non-voting council member to the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board for the 2-year term beginning January 1, 2018 and ending December 31st, 2019.
Thank you. I would move to refer collectively resolutions 897718 through 8983, I'm sorry, 897718 to 898318 to committee of the whole.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to refer to committee of the whole? Hearing none. All those in favor, I'm sorry, we'll need a roll call vote on this as well.
Anderson?
Yes.
Bullock? George?
Yes.
Litton?
Yes.
O'Leary?
Yes.
O'Malley?
Yes.
Rader?
Yep.
Excellent. That motion passes.
Okay. Item 15, communication from Councilmember O'Malley regarding an appointment to Lakewood Citizens Advisory Commission.
Councilmember O'Malley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I apologize for having mislabeled this communication and ask that the record reflect that it's regarding an appointment to the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board. Dear fellow council members, I'm pleased to reappoint Ward 4 resident Julian Russell to the Lakewood Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board. Ms. Russell is the board's longest-serving member, and I'm grateful for her continued willingness to volunteer on this important board. Sincerely.
Thank you. Move to receive and file. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file that communication? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 16, communication from Councilmember Rader regarding Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board appointment.
Thank you. Councilman Rader.
Thank you. Yes, so this letter serves to reappoint Kara Lasher, to the Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board for a 2-year term beginning January 1st. Ms. Lasher, has served on the board since 2014. During her time, she has spearheaded and supported numerous initiatives of the board and helped to increase public education and provide invaluable research and recommendations on recent issues with the urban coyote problem, among many other achievements. Under her leadership and her chairmanship, the LASWAB has increasingly grown more productive and professional. So thank you, and I really look forward to hearing more from what you guys come up with, and really look forward to working with you over the next couple of years. So thank you.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 17, communication from Councilmember Rader regarding Citizens Advisory Committee appointment.
Councilmember Rader.
Thank you. This letter is to serve to reappoint Eric Meinhardt to the Citizens Advisory Committee for a 1-year term beginning January 1st, 2018. Mr. Meinhardt has served with distinction on the committee, and I am grateful that he's going to continue to serve. I am confident that Mr. Meinhardt, both professional, personal, and educational background, will contribute to a robust, thoughtful, deliberate process in 2018. I am pleased to reappoint him to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Move to receive and file that communication. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 18, communication from Councilmember George regarding Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board appointment.
You, Councilmember George.
Thank you. The purpose of this correspondence is to reflect my appointment of Mary Bank of Bunce Road to the Animal Safety and Welfare Advisory Board. Ms. Bank has been a member of the Citizens Committee for the Lakewood Animal Shelter for the past 3 years and is highly engaged and motivated resident of our city. I'm confident she will bring both of these traits to her service to animals and her fellow citizens. It is my honor and privilege to appoint Ms. Bank to this position, and I look forward to her contributions to our community in this role.
Thank you. Move to receive and file. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 19, communication from Councilmember Anderson regarding Citizens Advisory Committee appointment.
Thank you. Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, I ask for your consideration of my suggested appointment of Faith Noble to the Citizens Advisory Committee. Faith is a dedicated member of the community. I know she will bring her vast expertise and knowledge to CAC. Years in service. You move to receive and file.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to receive and file? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes.
Item 20, communication from Mayor Summers regarding receipt of $216,474, NOPEC Inc. and Next Era Energy Efficiency Grant.
Thank you. Mayor Summers.
Thank you, President O'Leary, members of council, members of the audience. At our last meeting on January 2nd, I notified you that we had informally received notification of a $216,000 grant, NOPEC Energized Community Grant. In the next few weeks, I should receive more details from NOPEC regarding the expectations of this grant, but I'm confident that they will include our emphasis on investing in alternative energy and or any strategy that lessens our energy burden here in Lakewood. Some ideas I know we've talked about are electric charging stations. That's part of our objectives. Parts of that are in our budget, but this could be some resources to expand our possibilities. And solar energy panel installation, which we've talked about in the past on the city municipal utility garage. The limitation there in the short term was our roof repair. That's now almost finished. So it's possible we could begin to engage in a conversation about more solar energy. But perhaps there are other ideas as well. We look forward to, I think, a very creative process that allows us to spend what is a fair amount of money. And by the way, this money comes from each user who signs up for NOPEC as their opt-in for their utility supplier. Lakewood is one of the bigger communities in the roughly 50 community membership of NOPEC, and our grants are certainly among the biggest as a consequence. So grateful that our citizens are supporting this nonprofit aggregator, and some of the financial success as a nonprofit aggregator comes back to us, as is this case, in the form of a grant. So exciting opportunity, and start thinking. I'll let you know more details when they're forthcoming about the process, and then we'll look forward to figuring out how we can spend this money well.
Thank you. Move to receive and file that communication. Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? I'd just add that I think council is very eager to have that discussion too. Very fortunate, obviously, to be in receipt of those funds, and very much looking forward to that conversation. So thank you for bringing that forward, Mayor. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of receiving and filing, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Item 21, liquor permit notice of C1, C2, and D6 liquor permit transfers to Lakewood Hops and Vines from Lakewood Convenient 12901 Detroit Avenue.
Thank you. As is our custom, we will again defer to the councilperson in whose ward the establishment lies, and in this case, that is, if I'm not mistaken, Councilman O'Malley.
No objection.
Thank you. Move to file without objection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to file without objection? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, that motion passes.
Notice of a new D1 liquor permit type 2 LBM 12301 Madison Avenue.
I believe that we're not in receipt of a report on this yet. For reference purposes, this establishment is also in Councilman O'Malley's ward, so we'll look for an update on that item down the road. Move to defer. A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to defer? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? That motion passes. That brings us to the end of our docket this evening. We do not have anyone signed in for public comment at the end of the meeting, so we will turn it over briefly to the administration for any announcements. No announcements from the administration. I'll turn it over to announcements from council. Mr. Litton.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to remind everybody that the Lakewood Community Relations Advisory Commission has their annual potluck, diversity potluck this Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Women's Pavilion. Encourage everybody to come.
And bring a dish for 6, I think is
yes,
the
yes, that would be
potluck aspect.
Important prerequisite. Thank you.
Yes, no problem. Thank you for that announcement and reminder. Any further announcements from council? Councilman O'Malley.
Thank you. I just want to note that Lakewood Public Library will be hosting a 2-part series, the first of which will be tomorrow night. It will be called International Lakewood, and it explores the great diversity of people and cultures of the residents of Lakewood and presents a big picture of the immigrants and refugees who make our city their home. The second part, which will be the following Wednesday, will be The World in Your Backyard, and we'll discuss immigrants, refugees, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and we'll talk about our history of waves of immigration in the United States and the growth of Lakewood as a result of those populations. It's free and open to the public, begins at 7 p.m. on each evening, and actually the president of the International Services Center will be speaking at both of those events. Thank you.
Thank you. It sounds like an excellent program and would pair well with a culinary sampling from many of those countries at the LCRAC gathering. So, all right. Any other announcements from council members? Hearing none. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks again.